This is Ignacio, and since John said something about being hopeful, I was wondering if he is hopeful about things like the Black Lives Matter and how the young people are taking out into the streets with, I think, with a sense of hope themselves,
Yeah.
and but also as a man that is somewhat related to the South, how do you feel about the tearing down of statues and the doing away with the flag?
Yeah. Well, if I back up a little while, for many years after it became clear to me that simply having the information that our society was unsustainable was not going to affect people much. That was already disappointing. I sort of had the naive notion that if people knew that what we were doing collectively was leading to total disaster, they would think, okay, well, that's important. We need to, but all that does is to add to a body of beliefs that don't affect life. Because right now I'm too busy dealing with the issues. So I decided that the only hope was that that would be a catastrophe of sufficient significance to really force people to pay attention to it. And that would nevertheless not be the sort that decimated the population of the planet. And I think maybe that's happened. And I am not at all clear about the relationship between that and the Black Lives Matter movement. But I think there is one. I think the Black Lives Matter movement has been radically different from most of the protest movements that we have had. And that part of that radical difference is that we live in a time when people are realizing at a deeper level that it doesn't do that much good to say, oh, that's too bad, isn't it? You can really do things. Things can be different. And the young people have really, I mean, initially I thought, I just assumed it was, okay, one more of many protests that would do a little bit of good, but not much. But they haven't let it happen in that way. They kept on and kept on. And I have been really wonderfully excited about the fact that right now the discussion is not about, or not only about, how we can improve our system of policing a little bit, but it's also about defunding police, actually abolishing police. Well, those are the kinds of radical questions that we need to engage in agriculture, in education, in industry, everywhere. Just to start over again, what is it that we really need? And then find out what we're doing now, and finding out we could do it a different way that would not have the effects. So it may be we are finally at the turning point that for 50 years I've been waiting for, and that people are willing to think radical questions with the idea of acting on them. We haven't had radical questioning. Our universities are set up to avoid radical questioning. And we don't have other the church has not been asking radical questions. But modernity has led us in the wrong direction. It's done a lot of wonderful things, but it's not enough to do wonderful things if they're adding up to self-destruction. And maybe the American, our recent Democratic nomination process and the speeches and all of that were terribly disappointing to me, because I was an enthusiast for, oh, for goodness sake, I can't even call his name now. Uh, Bernie, yes, for Bernie. And I gave some money, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to put it up, but do you realize that Bernie never asked a radical question the whole time? He was just saying, why can't we do some of the things that have been done in Europe for decades? And that would be a great improvement for us. So I'm willing to support improvement. But no one that I can recall at any point, with the possible exception of the woman from Hawaii, asked, I mean, the question she was asking shouldn't be radical. Why don't we consider aiming at an international order that no one country tries to control? That has become a radical question, but it was around a long time ago. It's not, it doesn't get at the heart of things. So if we are now willing to ask radical questions with the idea that we might act on them, and that does seem to me to be part of what the Black Lives Matter movement is doing, maybe there is still hope for avoiding the most horrible of the consequences of what we've been doing.
Thank you, John.